So, my first video of 2011. So, let me start off by saying to everyone who's listening, Happy New Year. All right, so let's get into it. In this commentary, I would like to read you guys an article that was sent to me, and I thought it was a very interesting article. You can click on the link on the screen or in my info box and read it for yourself. And for those who want to read it, you can go ahead and just stop this video because for the ones who don't want to read the rest of this video, I'm just going to read the article. And the article that I'm talking about, it's called The Great African American Awakening. And it was written by this man named Myron Magnet back in 2008. And this article goes into talking about what black people on YouTube and other media outlets, whether they show their faces or not, have been talking about when it comes to the issues within the black community. And I like this article because what I picked up from it is not only talking about the issues that plague the African Americans, but it gives you another perspective. Well, it gave me another perspective as to why these issues are initiated and why the cycle even continues. And I feel like it is an awakening for those who happen to read the article because if you notice that within the black community, there are those who believe that what they're doing, whether they're a parent, a community leader, a black politician, a regular 9 to 5, or any characteristic you will find in the black community. There are people who have these roles and they think what they're doing is correct, when in actuality the result still ends in failure. From your preachers to your single parents, anyone. They feel what they're doing is improving the livelihood of other black people, when in actuality it's not getting us anywhere. We're still at the bottom. The results in the efforts that they're putting into still ends up being a failure, basically. And I feel like this article would be an awakening for those who think what they're doing is correct, but it's not. So again, if you want to read it on your own time, just go ahead and stop and close this video. Or if you have time to listen, pay attention. All right? So here goes. From emancipation to Boyd versus Brown, African Americans saw education as a radical tool of liberation. The conversation about race that Barack Obama says America needs is already in full swing, and it is a conversation among blacks. Its spark was a speech that TV star Bill Cosby gave at the NAACP in 2004. In books and articles, on talk shows and in town meetings, at barbecues and barbershops, African Americans have been arguing over his words ever since. Their impassioned discussion is the most hopeful development in race relations in years. With a 50% high school dropout rate and a 70% illegitimacy rate, with African Americans committing half the nation's murders through only 13% of the population, Black America, especially the poorer part of it, is in trouble. We cannot blame white people, Cosby asserted in his indiscretionary speech, commemorating the 50th anniversary of the Brown versus Board school desegregation decision. It's not what they're doing to us, it's what we're not doing. As Jesse Jackson used to say, Cosby recalls, no one can save us from us but us. Sure, racism hasn't vanished, Cosby acknowledged in his 2007 book, Come On People, a follow-up to his speech written with Harvard psychiatrist Alvin Passant. But for all the talk of systematic racism and governmental screw-ups, we must look at ourselves and understand our own responsibility. Even with lingering discrimination, there are more doors of opportunity open for blacks today than ever before in the history of America. And these doors are tall enough and wide enough for just about all black people to walk through with their heads held high. So while there are forces that make the effort to escape poverty difficult, African Americans are by no means merely the playthings of vast forces and helpless victims of racism. When people tell you, you can't get up, you're a victim, Cosby warns, that's when you know it is the devil you're hearing. Why do so many blacks, especially men, find it so hard to grasp the opportunity that is theirs for the taking? Why are so many of our black youths squandering their freedom?
Cosby and Passant's answer is that the social structure and culture of poor black neighborhoods distort the psychology of the children who grew up there, often shackling them in psychological slavery. The authors zero in on the permanently destructive efforts of fractured families and slapdash child rearing, much more slapdash than middle class parents with their years spent nurturing, encouraging, and cajoling their children could easily imagine. In the neighborhood that most of us grew up in, parenting is not going on, Cosby told the NAACP. You have the pileup of these sweet, beautiful things born by nature, raised by no one. Certainly their fathers aren't raising them. That 70% illegitimacy rate, troubling in itself, isn't eventually distributed, but is concentrated in poor neighborhoods where it soars above 85% and can approach 100%. A house without a father is a challenge, Cosby and Passant write. A neighborhood without fathers is a catastrophe. That's because mothers have difficulty showing a son how to be a man, a truly toxic problem when there are no father figures around to show boys how to channel their nature, aggressiveness in constructive ways. Worse still, the author mused, we wonder if much of these kids' rage was born when their fathers abandoned them. To come into the world already abandoned by your fathers is damaging enough, but come on, people, teens with children abandoned by their mothers as well. Many end up among America's 500,000 foster children, two-thirds of whom, more than 300,000 abused or cast off souls, are black. We meet a Kentuckian born in the housing project and taken away from her jailed, drug-addicted mother at the age of 6. After a string of foster homes and group facilities, she began doing drugs, alcohol, shoplifting, gang banging, and hustling. I was in and out of jail, she says. I was angry. I would fight at the drop of a dime. We hear of an 8-year-old smashed and grabbed burglar abandoned even more abruptly. A cop tells the authors about catching him. The boy wouldn't say one word beyond the address of his housing project home. The officer drove the boy there, followed him into his apartment, and saw his mother on the sofa. The boy finally spoke. She's dead, ain't she? And she was, with the needle that killed her lying on the floor. The boy calmly ate a bowl of cereal as he watched the cop deal with the body. We hear of children abandoned emotionally, if not literally. Another cop tells of a 7-year-old he picked up for bashing out car windows. I'm very good at making these kids cry, the cop said, but this one, I couldn't touch him. He drove the kid home to what looked like a shack. The boy opened the door, and there was his mother on the mattress on the floor having sex. The boy walked past the couple and sealed himself off behind a curtain. The man fled. The mother signed the form the cop held out to her, pulled the covers over her head, and left her son standing mutely behind the curtain. These are the extreme cases, but even among normal, poor, black, single-parent families, Cosby and Passant find child-rearing patterns that prime kids for failure. Since the authors believe that too many black adults are giving up their main responsibility to look after their children, they make a portion of their book a child raising handbook, an inner city Dr. Spock, whose simply stated advice makes clear what they think is going wrong in numerous ghetto families. Their optimistic, encouraging precepts, in spite of themselves, lift the curtain on the world of heart-rending childhood sorrow and suffering, which ordinarily no one comes to help or comfort, and which leaves scars that never heal. Above all, they counsel spare the rod. Many black parents use physical punishment, not just spanking, but also hitting, slapping, and beating kids with objects, they report. Indeed, many black parents have told us that physical punishment is part of black culture. But Cosby and Passant warn, when they beat their kids, they are sending a message that it's okay to use violence to resolve conflicts. Rather than helping them develop self-control in the sense of right and wrong, too often physical punishment turns into child abuse. Too often, parents or caregivers, especially the mother's boyfriend, beat their kids, not to discipline them, but to exercise their own demons. They take their anger out on the child, who serves as a whooping object for peevish adults. These beatings often produce angry children who treat others as violently as they have been treated. The prisons are bursting with grown up abused children. In addition to physical abuse, Cosby and Passant observe, we've all cringed at hearing inner city mothers abusing kids verbally as well, making them feel worthless and unwanted. Words like, you're stupid, you're an idiot, I'm sorry you were born, or you'll never amount to anything can stick a dagger in a child's heart. Single mothers angry with men, whether their current boyfriends or their children's fathers, regularly transfer their rages to their sons, since they're afraid to take it out on the adult males. If they hear their mom say, black men ain't shit, the boy wonders whether that includes them. When their mothers yell, you're no good just like your father, all the doubt goes away. When such radically tinged verbal abuse takes the form of, nigger, I'll kick your fucking black ass, the child ends up ashamed of being black as well. A danger anyway in a society where rumors of black inferiority still echo, if more faintly. One of black America's most disabling problems, Cosby and Passant think, is this wounded anger of children towards parents, women towards men, men towards their mothers, and women in general. Some try self-sedation, whether by wallowing in sedated victimhood, by music loud enough to wake the dead, by a lover or some crack, or if nothing else, a bag of burgers. Another way that black men have tried to maintain their dignity and to keep control of their anger is by being cool. Many who feel abandoned by a parent protect themselves from being hurt by putting on a cool detachment. Trouble is, beyond becoming emotionally frigid, they too easily lose their cool and explode in violence. Still, their effort is better than the hot-headedness of today's young black gangsters, as touchy and readily to duel to the death as the Three Musketeers. He dissed me, so I shot him, is now a common ghetto refrain, Cosby and Passant report. Hence, African Americans account for 44% of U.S. prisoners. 6 out of 10 black high school dropouts have been in prison before they hit the age of 40. And what Cosby and Passant call a culture of imprisonment devastates black families and communities. We are celebrating a great civil rights victory, Cosby told the NAACP. People actually present in the audience marched and were hit in the face with rocks so that black kids could get a decent education. But now? What the hell good is Brown versus Board of Education if nobody wants it? What did those brave marchers achieve if 50 years later half of African American kids drop out of high school and can't speak standard English, especially since all it takes to get started in today's more open America is a high school diploma and the ability to impress potential bosses as articulate, polite, and dependable? This failure, too, is largely a failure of parenting. Yes, ghetto schools are bad, Cosby and Passant acknowledge, and parents can't fix them. But you can make the best use of what you have to get the best you can for your child, they advise. You can make sure he does his homework and pays attention in class. And much of what a kid learns, he learns at home. After all, especially in his crucial first 5 years, talking and reading to infants and children help lay down the physical structures in the brain to develop skills in language, the author points out. But many ghetto moms aren't imparting the language and cognitive skills without which children can't succeed once they get to school. Teachers report that in poor neighborhoods, children often begin school not knowing their colors or the letters of the alphabet, Cosby and Passant write. Some have limited vocabularies and little knowledge of numbers. Some don't even know that sheep go by. These deficits are hard to correct later on. Indeed, sharp-eyed teachers can identify the children who will become high school dropouts the day they walk in the kindergarten door. The damage is already done.